Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is nonfiction author Crispin Boyer. He is here to celebrate Top Secret. Before we invite Crispin into the studio, we want to let you know we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Remy, a book about believing in yourself, a great middle grade novel from our friend Mayuri Naidu. This is a wonderful book that follows Remy, an 11-year-old boy who lives in the beautiful coastal town of Timberland with his parents. Remy is a really unhappy child. He is miserably self-conscious about his looks. He is always sidelined by other kids because of his lack of height. He is called mean names such as redhead and shorty by his classmates, and this shakes his confidence and makes him angry and frustrated. Being the shortest kid in the class makes him feel very upset. His mom always tells him that height is never an issue in life, that he's perfect just the way he is. She comforts Remy while explaining to him that physical appearance doesn't matter and that he should focus on the positives in life. She reminds him of all the good qualities he has, such as intelligence, being kind-hearted, and loving. Remy has trouble accepting his uniqueness until he meets a talking owl who helps him realize that there is more beauty in being different and standing out from the crowd. We love this book, and we ask you to check out our entire review on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Joining us right now from sunny Hawaii, our guest is here to celebrate a brand new book from NatGeoKids. It's called Top Secret. Our guest is Crispin Boyer. Crispin, welcome to the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Really happy to have you here. NatGeoKids, talk about great nonfiction books. I'm really excited that you're here. Tell us all about Top Secret, please.
Sure. So I've written a lot of books for Nat Geo that are about history, science, wildlife, and then so this book kind of takes a lot of those topics, but looks at the secret side of things. It gives you a little bit of extra info, or in some cases a lot of extra info, that is just generally not known. It's also information that your parents might not know too. So the young reader's parents. So it's a way to learn, if you're reading to your kids, to learn some things you don't know about, and also possibly to empower them with some information that other kids and other adults don't know.
Yeah. Secrets, revealing secrets. That's one of those hooks that really kind of pull people in. Can you tell us one of those secrets that you reveal?
Sure. No, I'm happy to spill the beans. So the book, it goes a lot into spies, which is fun for aspiring spies. One thing that you would look at a spy in a movie, like, classic James Bond or some TV shows like Alias, the spies are always these incredibly attractive people who know martial arts and drive fast cars and are running from explosions, jumping out of helicopters. And I interviewed a CIA agent for this book, and what she told me is if really any of that stuff happens, if find yourself getting in a fight or, in a car chase, you're a terrible spy. You failed. Your mission, you're going to get fired or captured. A spy's life is about blending in, being invisible, just you don't want anyone to notice you. You create this backstory or are given a backstory by our handlers. It's called a legend, and it's basically you're like an actor in a movie in that you might invent your own family, certainly where you're from. You not likely have to speak the native language wherever you're being, whatever government or country or even corporation that you're infiltrating, whether you have to learn the language of that country or the language of that culture, if it is like a corporation, in the case of corporate espionage. And then you got to stick to that story, and you just do not want anyone to think that you're anything other than the person that you claim you are. And that might even involve learning a new trade, like learning all these new technical skills, say in an office setting. And so that's one of the big things, that it's demystifying spies in the world of spies, but also at the same time revealing all the training that goes into it, kind of the lifestyle, which for a spy could be fairly hard, because if you have a family back home, you might not even be able to tell them what you do, and you certainly wouldn't see them for a few months. And so yeah, that's one of the secrets. The book isn't just about spies in spycraft. I really try to put in a lot of variety of information. So at the same time, another top secret fact is just about some of the secrets that are kind of hiding in plain sight, like Mount Rushmore, famous monument, has a secret room behind Lincoln's head, which I didn't realize until I read this. It's called the Hall of Records, and originally the plan was that they would store priceless national documents there. They might put the Declaration of Independence or the original Constitution, until, you realize that these documents would be stored in kind of a drafty cave, and they keep them in a safer place. But, so yeah, it's things like that. Just a nice variety of information. So you kind of go from one spread is about spies, the next spread is about crashed UFOs. We debunk conspiracy theories. So, like most of these books that National Geographic does that kind of jump around the topics, it's a real, and this is a review of the book that I read, said it's a real jumble, which I take as a compliment, because it really does provide a lot of different information.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about these books, about a book that has a jumble of information, is that you don't necessarily have to sit down and read it from cover to cover. You can sit down and read one of those spreads and kind of go down a rabbit hole in either conversation or research.
No, totally, and that's the point that you hit the nail on the head. It's to at least kind of fire up the reader's imagination, so they say they do learn something about the Bermuda Triangle or some hoaxes about Bigfoot, and then they're like, oh, I want to learn more about Bigfoot. Is it really a hoax? Is there really evidence for it? So yeah, it's kind of a conversation starter. It's an imagination igniter, I guess. And it just, you learn some basic fundamental stuff in the meantime.
Yeah. And I'm thinking too that for the parents out there that are listening that have the kids that are labeled reluctant readers, or maybe they have they have certain reading challenges, this might just be a real great resource for those families to sit down and not sit down with a kid and go, look, you got to read Harry Potter. It's 8,000 pages long, and you can't get up until you finish it. This is something where a kid can sit down and do something and experience success and joy in reading something short that has a lot of information in it.
Reluctant readers are actually my favorite kind of reader, and it's the type of reader that I kind of specialize in a lot of these NatGeoKids books, in that they are, like, I understand there's a lot. I'm competing with a lot of sources of entertainment and information, especially today, TVs, phones, video games. And so whenever you open these books in Top Secret, each spread will have just kind of a splash, a lot of big pictures of information, and then a lot of chunky nuggets of info that are really no more than like 100 words or so each. So it's a good, like, a reader will open it up and they'll see, there'll be a spread on the government made the flying saucer looking like a secret craft back in the 50s. So they'll just see this cool image of what looks like a U.S. Air Force flying saucer. So that gets their attention. And then there'll be a little intro explaining what it is, and then there's call-outs of the different parts of the aircraft. So it's just having all of these little leader lines or nuggets to kind of get you in, and the next thing you know, you've read the entire spread and you're on to the next page. So it's just kind of sucking them in with like really cool imagery, cool topics, and before you know it, they've read half the book.
Yeah. And I think too that this subject matter for Top Secret again is something that would be really attractive to those reluctant readers, and because one of the things that I find anytime I've met somebody who has been labeled that reluctant reader or has some kind of learning challenge, they're like vivid imaginations.
Yeah.
And
no, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just imagining, like that the UFO. What would a UFO be like? And seeing that picture, those still images that Nat Geo always has fantastic photography. And it's one thing to see a video, and that's really great. But I just remember staring at, some of the pictures that I would find in National Geographic or Nat Geo when my kids were younger. And you could look at those pictures, it seemed like for hours, and they would really just grab your attention and hold on to it.
No, I totally know what you're talking about, because I was the same way as a young reader too. If I find any kind of book or anything that's got large pictures with call-outs explaining the parts of, like, whenever they show cutaways of, say, an Egyptian pyramid, and you get to see everything inside of it, that's some of my favorite kind of that's one of my favorite ways to gather information, is by seeing it, a large picture, and then being able to digest it bit by bit with just little captions and call-outs that explain the different parts of it. And sometimes you're in the mood to sit down and read Harry Potter, and then sometimes you want to see something more like this. And I agree, readers that are reluctant do have very vivid imaginations, and I think whenever they see this, it really fires it up, and so they can, finish reading the spread here, say about the secret 103rd floor of the Empire State Building, and then go and read more about secret rooms all over the world, or even that there is a push now where more and more people are putting secret rooms in their houses just because it's just kind of cool. Yeah. It's kind of cool to have a room hidden behind a bookshelf.
I actually have a friend who has a secret room in his house.
There you go.
His house in Las Vegas. It was, and it is behind a bookshelf, and the bookshelf opens, and it's a pretty large room too. So, you caught my attention. You said that there's a secret 103rd floor of the Empire State Building.
Yes, it's an unofficial observation deck. So it was originally put in back when the building was built as a dock for airships, for Zeppelins. And also they suspect it was actually just kind of put there so the building would be slightly taller than a rival, the Chrysler Building. But now it's a pretty scary, from what I've seen of it, a pretty scary secret. It's basically an observation deck open to the air, and they don't use it for much because I imagine they can't open it to the public because I imagine it's an insurance nightmare. But
yeah,
but yeah, that's one of the tidbits that's in the book. Just kind of looking, that's part of the fun about leafing through it is there's kind of each spread is its own topic that has a bit of main text, but then there's lots of little nuggets of information spread around it. So it's almost like there's top secret information on top of top secret information.
Yeah. Boy, I have chills running down my spine imagining being in a Zeppelin and pulling up to the top of the Empire State Building and the flight attendants going, "Okay, time to get out." I'm like, "Excuse me."
Oh, I know. Wait, I guess I just go down this rope ladder?
Yeah, really? Hey, one of the things we've talked about here, and we've talked a lot to obviously we've talked to a lot of authors, but I think sometimes somebody might pick up Top Secret and see all these spreads on all these different subjects and think, wow, this must have been really easy for Crispin. He just needs to write 100, 150 words on every subject, and then he moves along. But I'm imagining finding the right 150 words for each of these subjects was pretty challenging.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always just presenting the most amount of information in the least amount of words, and trying to be as efficient as possible. And then some of these topics are so fascinating. I feel like they can get their own book. Mm-hmm. But, and I'm sure that a lot of these topics do have their own books. Like, for instance, a top secret government program, some of the ones we uncover here. But, say there's a spread in here that's about it's the presidential car. It's called, they call it the Beast. It's the unofficial name. It's this, so whenever the president lands wherever they're going and then has to drive through a city, they wheel out this vehicle called the Beast that looks from the outside more or less like an ordinary, it's like a Chevy Suburban SUV, but it's got all these top secret features that some of them, when I was writing about it, I just had to go off of some of the best guesses of people that are involved in building it, but there's no, it's got arm, it might be able to deploy an oil slick if they need to make a fast getaway. It's got, rocket-proof armor. It has its own air tank in case that, there's like poisonous gas outside the vehicle. So it's just like trying to find that right balance of verified information and then kind of the best guesses of the experts. And that's what goes into the book. I'm not gonna, is it 100% confirmed that this vehicle can drop an oil slick? No, but that's too good of a tidbit to leave out. And I do make it clear that it's rumored to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. But, it's finding the most tantalizing information and packing it into fairly tight space.
Well, that brings up the question, how do you get access to these secrets?
Well, a lot of it was just, a lot of research, just reading books about the Cold War, about spies. I did interview a spy for the book, and she's actually interviewed in the book in the Q&A, and I actually asked her a lot of questions, not really for print, kind of off the record, that then I can use to inform other parts of the book. But I've written so many other books for National Geographic that did, about ancient Egyptian history, medieval times, and as I was writing all these other books, I have a series called Why. It's 1,000 questions that have to start with the question why. So as I'm writing these other books, and then I kind of store in my head topics that I think are worth expanding on, and then when it comes to time to write this book, Top Secret, I'm like, all this stuff that I couldn't really use in these other books, or there was this certain part of the story that I didn't cover would be perfect for here. So then I kind of go back and flesh that out. So in a lot of ways, this book, Top Secret, is the culmination of my research in all these other books.
Wow, really cool. Was there any secret that really kind of surprised you more than any other?
Yeah, I'd say what the things that really surprised me were the government programs that to me always felt like they were the plot of a sci-fi movie. So the CIA back in the 70s started this program called Stargate, where they actively recruited people who said they were psychic and could do what's called remote viewing, where they can sit in some office in Washington, D.C. or Virginia and project their brains to look into top secret facilities in the Soviet Union, who was our rival at the time. And this was a real thing that the CIA did, and it lasted from the 70s through the 90s, and the Soviet Union did the same. They had a similar program. So when I find out about that, it's like, okay, here's something that sounds it's not stranger than fiction. It just sounds like fiction. Mm-hmm. So then you learn about that, and then it's like, what else? What other crazy things were they up to? And you learn about that the U.S. Army wanted to put a secret moon base back during the space race to just to have a secret base on the moon, and in that sense kind of claim some of the moon for the U.S. And they were going to send astronauts up with moon trucks that would dig these trenches and put these tube-like kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen like a habit trail with the hamsters run through.
Sure.
Something like that. Bury it in the lunar soil and just maintain a moon base. And then, America won the space race and realized that maintaining a moon base it would have been just very expensive. So we didn't do it. But yeah, just the stuff like that just seems like science fiction, but is not, I think is the most interesting facts.
Tell me, was there any secret that you wanted to report on, but you just weren't able to get enough information?
There were some topics that, that would just seem like, so the topics of like secret societies, which in some ways can be sinister, in some ways can be scary. I do have a spread in there on like I didn't really want to cover any kind of modern conspiracy theories. I wanted to stick with stuff that's kind of like, classic, like the Illuminati or theories about like the conspiracies that they're lizard people, stuff like that. Just stuff that's kind of fun, but not really like modern. I'm not covering like the JFK conspiracies or anything that's like that. There's an island. It's one of the most secret societies in the world. It's the Sentinelese. It's this group that lives on this island, in like Southeast Asia that really have just shunned the outside world. And I thought that was a pretty interesting topic, but it's one of the reasons that, and I think they actually fall maybe under New Zealand's jurisdiction. I can't remember, but they live on this island and they don't have any modern technology, but they're also very vulnerable because they have had no contact with the outside world, to modern illnesses and things, diseases. So this is one of those topics that it's really interesting, but at the same time, there's like all these other aspects that are kind of, that for younger readers, it might be a sensitive topic. So stuff like that, I thought about putting it in, and I'm like, I think it's best that it's better, and maybe a less light-hearted kind of kids book.
Yeah. Wow. Really, really cool. I'm fascinated. What's next for you? Do you have another project that's in the works?
Well, yeah, in addition to writing these nonfiction books for National Geographic, I'm actually writing a fiction series because they've started doing more fiction books that have a slight educational bent. So I've been working on a series called Zeus the Mighty about a little hamster who lives at a pet rescue center, but he believes that he's actually Zeus, the king of the gods, and he hangs out with these other animals that all believe they are Olympian gods. And there's been the first 2 books have come out, and because of the pandemic and just writing schedules, I'm actually working on the 5th book right now. the 3rd book comes out in August, so that's why I like working for National Geographic, because I work on these nonfiction books that have all these fun facts, and then I'm working on this fiction series that's based on Greek mythology and has that as like a educational bent, but at the same time, it's a story that I get to make up, so I have a lot more leeway. And these books are illustrated; they have a really good illustrator too. So it really does. They let me really stretch every part of my brain, I guess, when I'm writing for them. So yeah, those are the main projects I'm working on.
That's awesome. I'm wondering, Crispin, is there any place online where folks can go to learn more about you and the books that you're bringing into the world?
Well, yeah, NatGeoKids.com is pretty much your one-stop shop. You can go check out all of their books, Top Secret, Zeus the Mighty. You can find the books on Amazon. I believe there's a free preview too. A lot of times on NatGeoKids.com you can find a preview of the book, so you can kind of leaf through and see if you're interested in it. Hopefully it hooks you from the first spread. You can check out your local bookstore too. But yeah, it's really NatGeoKids.com is the place to go.
Awesome. Well, we've had a great time speaking to the author of Top Secret. Great new nonfiction title from our friends at NatGeoKids. And we've been speaking to the author, Crispin Boyer. Crispin, thanks so much for taking time to be with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Katie Petrozello. If you're the author of a great children's book, you want to check out our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. You know, there are thousands of books published every single month. It is so hard for a book to stand out from that crowd. The Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program will let families know that your book is worthy of their consideration. Check it out today. Go to certifiedgreatread.com or just go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to Certified Great Reads. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Crispin Boyer. Be sure to check out Top Secret. I also want to thank my team, and I want to start by thanking two incredible interns we had working with us this spring semester. Alexia Brown, Hannah Pat Oboyski. You'll be hearing both Hannah Pat and Alexia help me co-host a couple of episodes in the future. Their internship here on the podcast has ended. They're moving on to new challenges. We wish them all the best in their future endeavors. They're incredibly talented young people, and I know you'll be hearing more from them. I also want to thank Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking to you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.